Now, from the Columbia Basin, your local news source, this is iFIBER 1 News, presented in high definition. The #1 source for real-time local news, local sports headlines, and our very own Weather Center forecast covering the entire Columbia Basin. With your iFIBER 1 News team, reporting news in real time as it's happening. From the iFIBER Communications HD broadcast studio in Ephrata, Washington, this is iFIBER 1 News, and it starts now.
Welcome to iFIBER 1 News. I'm Cody Johnson with news from around the Columbia Basin for Friday, March 8th. Tonight we'll review some of the top stories from this week and a few of your favorites. And we have the latest weather forecast for the Columbia Basin from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center. Our top story tonight is one of our viewers' favorites. It's about a janitor at Frontier Middle School in Moses Lake that did more than keep the school running.
Hank Buckman's been a lot of things in his 65 years. A published writer and poet, he was a correspondent in the Vietnam War and co-founded a literary magazine that's still going strong after 3 decades. But Buckman, who was born and raised in Moses Lake, says some of his most rewarding years came as a custodian and educational assistant with the school district. After 20 years, his retirement party was held last Friday at Frontier Middle School.
Oh, you guys. You know what? I'd like to say I'm going to miss you, but I'm not. I've been in this building for 14 years. So I'm always telling these 8th graders, you guys were in Pampers when I started here.
Buckman became a custodian, he says, simply because he needed a job.
I could have used this today.
But shortly after he started, first at Discovery Elementary, then Chief Moses Middle School, he began volunteering to teach kids about poetry.
And I would teach them all kinds of things. And I think for like 6 years, I was practically in a classroom almost every day.
He sees poetry as a way to reach kids and give them an avenue for self-expression.
They realize that this is how you think. You think abstractly anyway. I mean, I read their notes that they leave laying around and stuff, and it's like, in a sense, if I broke it down, I could make up a poem out of it. So I try to go into a class later on after the testing is done and say, if you're turned off by writing because you've had to do this, 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 and this all year long, let's see, there's other things about writing, and then we just go have some fun.
Buckman and his wife Becky have 6 children of their own, but whenever anybody asks if he has kids, he always includes the hundreds of students at Frontier.
I treated them well, I treated them like my own kids, and they reciprocated by realizing I was honest, and they've given me back so much love, it's not funny. It's great. I couldn't ask for more than that.
He always had a smile on his face, said hi. He always encouraged us and always supported us through everything we did. And he always was involved in the students' lives. Like, he really, really cared about us.
Buckman's coworkers say he's made the school a great place to work.
We get along fine and have a good time. That's what it matters. If you can't come to work and be happy, you're in the wrong business.
And I think that he just exudes love.
He's just been a cornerstone for Frontier and for the students and staff.
I highly doubt that there's many schools out there that the kids hold their custodian as much respect and esteem as they do Hank here.
Santos says it's become a tradition for Buckman to give Hank's words of wisdom during the school's year-end promotional ceremony.
He's guaranteed to get a standing ovation at the end of each promotion ceremony, so he wraps up our ceremonies, and this year he gets to be our guest speaker, so yeah, he's a great guy. We're going to miss him a lot around here.
Buckman says he plans to use his newfound free time to work on publishing more of his poems and short stories.
Writing, I'm in love with writing. Love with the written word, and that's what I try to tell these kids. If you don't read, it's because you haven't found the right book yet.
But he'll also keep visiting classrooms for what he calls spontaneous bouts of teaching.
Everybody's always talking about everything that I've given you, but you guys have given me way more. It's like you made me part of your little group.
For iFIBER 1 News, this is Ryan Lancaster reporting.
Thanks, Ryan. He will certainly be missed. Hydroplanes are a step closer to roaring around Soap Lake. As organizers work to bring back the boats after 30 years, a group of people attended a public meeting to voice their support.
A small group showed up for a public meeting in Ephrata last night concerning an upcoming hydroplane boat race on Soap Lake. The race is scheduled for June 15 and 16 and is sponsored by the Seattle Dragon Ski Boat Association, with insurance provided through the American Powerboat Racing Association. The meeting was overseen by Grant County Sheriff's Marine Deputy John Melvin as part of a permit review process. Race Chairman Terry Anderson addressed a range of issues, including security and safety.
Our response time to a driver or a boat that is in an accident is usually less than 30 seconds.
In response to questions about potential water pollution, Anderson said boat motors are enclosed and teams are on hand to deal with any incidents.
If that motor blows up in the boat, as they can sometimes, that is contained in the boat.
He said other communities have tested waters before and after hydroplane races and have never found a corresponding rise in pollution levels. Anderson also addressed the question of noise, saying racers won't be on the water in the early morning hours or after about 5 p.m. John Lawson lives in Auburn, but also has a home in Soap Lake.
If there were some really concerned individuals about noise and about water pollution, they would be here.
Lawson and other residents who did show up were strongly in support of the race. Anderson says he hopes to win over the whole town by running a clean event.
We want something that the community is going to be proud of, that the community is going to get some benefit out of, and that we're going to come back on a year-by-year basis.
He said a race like this typically runs between $10,000 and $12,000. An event is planned for Saturday, March 23rd in Soap Lake to help raise the funds.
We're bringing 5 boats over for a display.
For iFIBER 1 News, this is Ryan Lancaster reporting.
iFIBER 1 Sports is preparing to broadcast the hydroplane races, and we're working hard to make sure we can bring you all the racing action in high definition. Soap Lake made news a second time this week as the City Council made a decision on what to do with their fire department.
The City of Soap Lake will keep its own fire department. Late last year, the city was considering contracting out for fire services to Grant County Fire District 7. The option would have cost about $44,000, the same amount Soap Lake was paying for a city-run department with few volunteers and many missed emergency calls. But many on the council were hesitant to abandon the fire department. At the first of the year, they opted to delay a decision for 60 days to give time for new Fire Chief Dan Shields to demonstrate improvement. It seems to have worked.
We've turned it upside down and came a long ways.
In the past 3 months, Shields brought the department up from 6 to 17 active volunteers, all who are CPR first aid qualified. They've reorganized and cleaned the fire station, inventoried and repaired the equipment.
I just have to give my volunteers a huge thanks. I mean, there's no way that I could have done it without all the people that I have.
The department's average emergency response times went from the previous 12 minutes down to 8 minutes or less from the time of the call to having personnel on scene. Shields says nearly all rural departments in the state have an average response time of 10 minutes.
We had to have some results in 60 days, and I think the results have surpassed my expectations.
For iFIBER 1 News, this is Ryan Lancaster reporting.
It sounds like the new chief is making some great progress. Each of the people you see here have warrants for their arrest and are wanted by various law enforcement agencies. If you see any of these people, the DOC asks that you not attempt to detain or apprehend them, but to call police. You can also call the Department of Corrections at 509-764-6180 during the day or 509-762-1160 after 5 p.m. We'll be right back after these messages with the latest from our iFIBER 1 Weather Center, and we have sports and more news on the way.